ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of every single age known to man.
Every single one.
Welcome to the podcast you've been waiting for, searching for, hoping for, praying for. Welcome to Talking on Eggshells. I just stuttered.
We're nervous. Can you guys tell? Tell?
So that's our theme song. What just happened right there, that was the theme song.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so we're doing it, Kayllen. This is it.
It's been a long time in the making. If you're one of our besties, you know that we've been talking about this for a long time. If you know me deeper than that, you know that I've been wanting to do a podcast for years. And I've only been able to find one person to commit to it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We are testing out things. I am using equipment that I've never even dreamed of using.
Never even dreamed.
And we are miles and miles away.
Other sides of the country.
Literally other sides of the country. So just have a little grace with us, because we will be learning and as we go along on this process.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
But I think our first episode, this first part of this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing, what the vibe is, and then we'll get into the main meat of today.
Yes, the reason why you're all here.
The reason that you're seeing the title of this podcast episode and you're going, oopity scoopity, they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for friends, family, strangers, I'm Kayllen. Thank you. And this is...
I'm Nathan.
Hi, Nathan.
Oh gosh, this is awful. This is too telling. This is too telling about just who we are.
This is very telling too. Anyway.
Yeah, so we're friends. We're friends who talk a lot. Basically, that's what we're doing here. We decided we're talking a lot just in general as people. We need to put that into a balloon. We need our talking to be a balloon that we fill up with the air of our talking and send away. So this audio that you're listening to, that is the balloon that we have sent away.
Yes.
Does that encapsulate?
I think so. You can also just imagine the text threads between Nathan and I rarely are words. They are rarely bubbles of words. They are mostly voice memos that can be from 3 to 4 to 15 to 20 minutes long.
Yes, I did 30 one time, but it didn't let me send it.
We are not exaggerating.
Yeah.
We so rarely can find time to call that we will send voice memos that are so long. And we love them. Neither of us...
It's also often it's 3 a.m. and it's okay, I know everyone is sleeping, so but I'm having this revelation, so what am I supposed to do? Revelation or emotional
breakdown or, it's really the things that our text voice memos have seen is scary. Those are forever sacred and will never be played here. That's why you're getting this version of it. Yes. But this podcast will consist of a lot of random things that is our friendship. Which is relationships, Enneagram, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, religion, family, trauma, art, theater, music, everything you can think of that is Nathan and I's relationship.
I mean, really, nothing is nothing is off the table.
No.
Really. Anywhere. We could go anywhere.
Exactly. We could.
It's scary.
That is frightening, but we will do it for you, the listeners, and for ourselves. Honestly.
For the listeners, yeah, we're doing this completely for the listeners.
Yeah,
lest you think that we enjoy what we're doing right now because it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes.
But so we'll talk about a lot of stuff. We'll also talk about how this kind of all got started. We might have a little episode about our first ever podcast episode before this, which.
What?
Yeah, I didn't even tell you I was going to say this, but we had a random podcast preview in a house that is neither of ours, in a time where neither of us had microphones, and all we had was a Bethany Louise Huff and her phone and her AirPods.
We both didn't say our last names, but Bethany is Bethany Louise.
Yes. But one day you guys will be able to hear about our origin story.
Wow, I don't even know our origin story then. I'm so scared.
I'll explain it to
what
you.
is this mysterious podcast?
Oh, you will see. He'll remember once we start talking about it. Oh, it's not the Muppets, but that's also another. We'll talk about how we became friends.
Yes.
Mostly for you guys to know is just we met each other. We went to the same school in a big theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Theater school.
Theater school.
Which I'm really embarrassed
nerds.
now. Kayllen, I'm embarrassed now to tell people that. Isn't that funny?
I think it's a part of our journey.
No, it is. I know it is. But it's like, I talk about what I'm doing because, like, I'm a writer and I'm an artist. And they're like, oh, yeah, so, like, where did y'all meet? Because my wife and I met also at this school. And it's like, oh, yeah, we met at theater school. And we just both kind of go, you can't see my face, but it's the emoji with the teeth. The wince. Yeah.
But we met at this school. We related over our our similar
mental instability,
traumas, pains, but also our relationship with the Lord and how He encouraged us with each other. And we found people, like, I think you and I can both say there may be no other person on the earth that maybe is almost exactly the same as we are as to each other. It's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah, because, like, well, what's interesting is, like, because you know Jono, who's like my twin.
All of these people, like, we'll have maybe one day we'll have like an Instagram page and there'll be like a dictionary of who all these people are, because we're acting like you guys all know who they are.
And we just draw stick figures.
Yeah. No faces.
But like Jono is my twin, but like somehow you're also my twin, but you're not Jono's twin.
God, no.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't understand. Like, I don't understand that.
And the same thing with Beth. Like, Beth and I are so similar. And we have such similar, like, humor styles. And we just mesh so well. But in the same way, we're just not... In the way that you and I think and feel and express so similarly, it's, like, kind of scary. So,
which is why we're here today to talk about Barbenheimer. But first, before we talk about Barbenheimer, this first episode of our podcast is sponsored by your ex-boyfriend's microphone. Amen.
Now, you might have been thinking, I want to start a podcast. But you had no microphone. You had nothing to record it with. The audio was going to be terrible. Just like me, Kayllen Cox. And then you thought to yourself, you know who might have a microphone? My friend, whose ex-boyfriend gave her a microphone to record things. And you thought to yourself, well, that's probably not getting much use anymore. And it's been donated to you and your pal, Nathan.
Well, that's not getting any use anymore. I don't know what
But anyway, we just want to say thank you to our sponsor, your ex-boyfriend's microphone. Not because you did anything great in the relationship, but because
we wouldn't be here without you.
We wouldn't be here without you. And, you know, sometimes we wish we could say otherwise, but here we are at the end of the day with your microphone. Because you just got to get something out of the relationship.
Well, and what would be funny would be if, like, this audio, like, didn't work. You know?
Nope, then I can't even say it.
We'd probably have to... Talking in eggshells. See? That's lore. That's deep lore we're planting.
That is such deep lore. But
the lore. Did I tell you about my commitment to at least once every week, I have to go, the lore! And
I mean, you are a writer, so it makes sense.
Well, that's true for me. But, like, in, like, social situations, there has to be, and there always is, because there's so much lore all around the world.
Which I think that's actually a great segue into what we're talking about, which is Barbenheimer. One of the maybe greatest, like, biggest film weekends in a long time.
Yeah.
Especially since COVID-19.
I can't think. Yeah, absolutely. Because I was trying to think, like, okay, this has happened before, actually. Here's some lore for you. But, like...
The lore!
Thank you. I almost think, so Christopher Nolan, who directed Oppenheimer, used to work for Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers did Barbie, and I think they also did this other movie way back when The Dark Knight, Batman The Dark Knight, was in theaters. Film. Other movie came out, Mamma Mia, same day.
Yes! Oh, you guys
was
may
it the
be
Mama
hearing...
Mama Night? The Mama Dark Knight?
I have to say one thing. I will tell you all that I live downtown. So you may randomly, during these episodes, hear random cars drive by with very loud music. And that might have been one of those moments. Maybe you didn't, and I've totally just given this a weird vibe that you can't even hear the car, but you may have. Don't be surprised.
It's okay. It kind of gives like a smoky, like urban like room.
Yeah. Because the goal is that you guys feel like you're chilling here talking with us too.
Yeah. So and if you hear any of like this, it's because it's really hot and I'm like sweating. And so I'm just like constantly trying to fan myself.
I wish you guys could see what I just saw on FaceTime.
That's true. That was very direct,
so good. One day we'll film an episode and it'll be absolutely rancid, but it'll be really good. Okay, but back to Barbenheimer. Yes, I know. So there's been like 3 times that's happened, right? It was like Dark Knight and Mamma Mia, and then something else, but I can't remember what. I think I saw it on social media that was like it was these 2 polar opposite movies that are coming out.
Is it good? What I was thinking, and this segues into more of what we want to talk about. Look, we don't have to announce every segue. That's kind of funny. Anyways, I just realized we're both doing this. So here's the thing, though. So, like, the interesting thing about this was, like, or any of these, like, double feature things, is I would think that the studios are probably getting together being like, oh, we release a movie for the boys and the girls. And it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Which makes these 2 movies just so interesting because there was just all these ripples of masculinity and femininity
and just patriarchy and like exactly. Well, and I just saw actually today I was on social media and I saw this thing that was like the marketing team for Barbie did so good that they marketed for 2 movies at the same time. Somehow. And I was just like, and like I think at the end of the day that even if it wasn't on purpose in the beginning, it had to be on purpose at some point because I think if two big production companies are going, hey, we're gonna release this movie on this day, and then the other one goes, hey, so are we. I'm sure the first thought in their mind was maybe we should release these on different days, but I think somebody in the marketing department went, no, these like you don't realize that these millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha are going to actually storm these theaters to go see both of these movies. Yes, the irony of it, the quirkiness of it, the like, just like the meme of it all, and we love that. That's
and like, also somehow they're the same movie.
Yes, and somehow point to like really similar things, which is
really similar things.
Like I think one of my favorite things that I walked out of. So I saw Oppenheimer first. I think you did as well, right?
Yes. So we both did the Oppenheimer.
Yeah, the Oppenheimer. Yes, not the Barbenheimer. But we saw Oppenheimer first. Then my friends and I went to a McDonald's because we had a 40-minute break in between. We went to McDonald's and sat there. And one of my biggest takeaways from Oppenheimer was that it makes me cackle how scared people are of women being in political positions of power because they think that their hormones are going to cause wars. And then I just had watched a film of all
That's what you're thinking during Oppenheimer.
Of all of these men and how they started these wars and they've killed so many people. And like masculine energy can be kind of scary sometimes when you see it on a screen like that. And you just watch all these men argue about how they need to bomb somebody before somebody else bombs us.
Yeah.
And
just
like
paranoia.
But a woman, if she's on her period, she's hitting the H-bomb button. It's happening.
Yeah, because they had that scene where the guy was like, sorry, which at least Oppenheimer was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, no, you, like, I'm telling you, you need to, like, he needs you on this project, so just so we clear that up. But it is true.
Yeah.
That was like, I forgot that happened in that. That makes sense. I can't believe you had like the wherewithal to go to a McDonald's, which is not that much wherewithal, but like, because my wife and I, we literally just like, we walked out in a trance-like daze, looked at everything that could potentially blow up, which was everything, and then just like fell on the grass in front of the theater for like probably a good. And then we went. You know what? Then I forgot. Then we went and bought blueberries, and and baby carrots.
That really actually feels like Barbie energy. So I feel like you did a really good job. That's
then we drank or we drank vodka. So
yes, good, smart vibes.
The whole experience.
Also giving Barbie. I don't know how it is.
And then we went back in.
But no, I think it was just a very like, I think it was so smart as like these mass production companies making it to where it was a day where people could go and spend 7 hours at a theater. You know, when you're there, somebody's getting money, whether it's you need a water bottle or you need a thing of popcorn. Like, it was a cool marketing thing. But beyond that, just so cool to watch two movies that are so opposite yet showed so many similar themes and ideas. So weird. And you would be
also, like we're talking about it so seriously. Sorry,
oh my gosh, I know. I'm sorry, but we are.
It's like got this image. Like again, we're talking about like Oppenheimer. Yeah, okay. Like Christopher Nolan movie about the man that made the atomic bomb. Yeah. And then we're also talking about Barbie.
And I think honestly, in my mind, I took Barbie way more seriously than I did Oppenheimer.
I did too.
Because I'm sorry, I can't take seriously a bunch of men like for 3 hours just talking about neutrons, electrons. And getting mad about it, you know, like it's so good, but like also the themes in Barbie, obviously, because I'm a woman, I think I related way more to, but you know, like I don't know.
No, I mean it's true, and I feel like it's a little rude because like I feel like we should spend more time talking about Oppenheimer than I know we are going to.
Oh no, we're gonna get to Barbie and y'all are gonna be shook to your core.
I know. But, like, the reality is, like, very good movie. You know, it's a Christopher Nolan movie, which, like, you always have to, you know, really focus. And he does things in different ways and, like, very deep. And also, what was weird was that Cillian Murphy, I always forgot that in high school, everyone said I looked like Cillian Murphy, which I don't now.
Wow.
But, like, you look at pictures in high school.
Actually, though, I could see that. I'm thinking back to your child pictures, and I could see that.
Yeah, because I love that you know that.
I know, right?
That's great.
I've seen
because I was like
channel.
stick thin and like, and I would wear ties and stuff like that, which is silly. But like, and so there were moments in it where I was like, oh, this kid looks. And when he would get like the stars in his eyes, I was like, oh no, that feels like me. I don't want to relate to this. And that's where it stopped. I'll be honest. Like, yeah. Usually I have a lot of relatability movies. It stopped there. But like, really good movie. I really liked how he like juxtaposed. Like, I felt like, I'm just giving it some time, because I know we're gonna... But, like, I liked how I felt like Oppenheimer's passivity in, like, really ending up being against the bomb, you know, at the end. And he didn't really want to be a part of it, but he kind of just did, because he couldn't really stand up for himself. But then also, that related to all of the affairs that he had. Like, everything he ended up with in his life, it was, like, macro level, micro level, the communist stuff. It was like you were passive, you didn't make a decision, and then you had to live with the consequences of that decision, just unraveling your life. Yeah. You know?
Which, you know who this reminds me of? I'm about to really make a theater kid turn on us right now.
Okay,
Alexander Hamilton.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I'm sorry. We're going to get canceled on the first episode, but... I'm just saying, I don't know, it just made me think, it just made me go, Alexander Hamilton.
Musical Oppenheimer.
Like, musical, oh god, I already saw a thing that was like, you already know that in like 5 to 10 years, the Barbie movie's gonna be made into a musical.
That's
I'm like, I'm mad about it. Sorry,
really?
we're gonna go on a theater rant right here for a second.
Oh no.
But I'm so mad about how little, original content there is on Broadway right now. I think there are too many movie adaptations to musicals, too many jukeboxes.
Oh, yes.
So I think it does a disservice to Barbie to, I think, cheap shot it to make it a musical. Yeah. Like, I think that it held so much weight in what you saw in like the film, I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is, yes, it will probably happen, and it will probably not be as good. What really should happen is it should be like a Star Kid production. Okay? That's the thing.
I'd be okay
I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that in the context of High School Musical. We really are going here, aren't we?
We are. I'm so sorry, everyone. Oh, but this is like, who we are.
It's true. But like, I was just like thinking of a High School Musical in the context of Star Kid Productions, just like randomly funny without like just irreverent and like actual high school drama. Yeah. But like with the kind of veneer of like it's supposed to be a musical. It's supposed to be. So like someone's like, this could be the star, and someone's like, no, shut up. Like, you know, it's like, literally, no, stop. Just like so actually I have a boyfriend. Like, you know,
literally. No. But anyways, yes.
Yeah,
musical theater ran over, but no, I think. Oppenheimer. Yeah, it was a really, but it's Christopher Nolan, and I think you're right. I want to watch it again, and Christopher Nolan's one of those people, like filmmakers, where you're like, you watch it in the theaters and you're like, whoa, and then you watch it like 4 more times at your house, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing here. So I was like, I also needed subtitles. Why do we not have subtitles in theaters?
Specifically for a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yes, like because I was like, there's so many scientific words and mathematical words and just so many things that I'm not getting because I'm just like basic girl who is like I literally call myself illiterate half of the time. So I'm like, fun fact about me that when I was in conservatory, I literally had the Word of the Day app on my phone because I was trying to learn how to have bigger vocabulary. I did not keep that on my phone for long. But no, I think I just needed to like, I was focused and I was ready to watch, but then I needed more time for so many moments. So I'm excited to watch it again.
Funny. See, well, it's so funny that was your reaction because like, you know what it is? This is why I had a different reaction. Partially Interstellar is my favorite movie ever. And I weep for literally 2 hours after I watch it every time for different reasons. So like, there's also that. But like, I watched an interview with Christopher Nolan right before, or like a little bit before we saw it. And he was just like, and he was answering a question. The question was like, what do you say to people that are like confused in your movies? And he's like, I forget what he said. It was like something like, well, like don't focus on the details. Get lost in the emotion and the sound and the feel. And so then I went in and I literally went in thinking I'm not going to care about all the words.
Yeah.
And then honestly, Kayllen, like that was like made the movie I feel like really impactful to me because I was just listening to the score most of the time. Because they would be talking science, and then the score's ramping up, and you like feel this like, oh Absolutely. No, like the decision, this sciencey decision right here, like that's almost just like the precursor to the fact that like there is a bomb coming.
Yeah.
Like, and they don't know if the world is gonna end or not. So, anyways, that was just kind of like why I feel like I didn't have that.
I appreciate that he says things like that and is not like, well, then it's just not a movie for you, you know, like because I think it is so true, like. Why have these types of movies with a star-studded cast like Oppenheimer was, and not allow them to show off their acting chops and really like because I mean that's the thing is that all of these performers were amazing. Like they are such amazing actors that I appreciate that he understands the like artistry of acting to say like that's the important part is to get lost in the characters, get lost in the moment, not lost in the details. I like that. I will say I was shook to my core when I saw Roderick. Pugh. Well, that also Florence Pugh. We'll get there.
I really thought we were talking about the fact that we saw so much more Florence Pugh than
I saw far too much of Florence Pugh, and we will get there. Okay.
Which it's censored in I forget where it's censored. India, yeah. The only CGI in the movie is a little black dress they put on.
I love that. I saw someone that was like, what about the scene right before that though? What did they do there? I don't even want to know. But I will say I was shook to my core that Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid was in this movie.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, that is so sad. Roderick is the older brother from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And like childhood crush of mine, which is very telling. Once I send you a picture of what he looked like when I had a crush on him, you'll very much Actually, I'm gonna do that right now while we're talking because I can't.
Oh my gosh.
Is alive, and then also the kid from the first Santa Claus movie, Bernard.
Oh my gosh, who is he?
That was the guy that was like the stout guy that met him. In the seminar in the movie. Oh my gosh, what was it?
Wait, was he the guy that like turned him in?
No, he was the guy that was there afterwards and that didn't turn him in. Remember that he like came and he was like when he was in his like little court case. I know it wasn't a court case, but in his little like thingy, and he came in there and was giving him
spoilers,
like
by
a snack.
The way.
Yeah,
Obviously.
spoiler or whatever.
We're
and
talking about everything.
He was like giving him snacks or something like that. Like Oppenheimer was sitting on that bench and he was sitting there, and then that other guy that kind of like came in and then left.
I do not remember this at all.
I am literally sending all of these pictures to you.
Honestly, the movie after the Trinity test, I was like already like I was just shell shocked, like from then onward, the rest of the movie happened, but like literally all of them were aliens to me. Like they weren't like I literally was like once you wield that kind of power, like how can you even be human? Which is so deep and whatever. It's like, but I literally just couldn't. So that's interesting. Because also Drake and Josh Peck.
Josh Peck was in it. I was shook to my core. How do they, why do they keep doing this? I don't know.
Kind of well, because they're all adults now.
I know, but it just
they're not children.
They're not children. I'm trying to find a picture of him. His name is David Krumholtz.
Okay.
I'm trying to find a picture of what he looked like in Oppenheimer because none of these pictures look like what he looks like now.
We'll find it.
Yes. But going back to Florence Pugh, yes, I was going to say that I would love to watch the film again, have subtitles on, and be able to pause whenever I need to, and also skip the Florence Pugh scenes. Because I don't need it, and I don't want it. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that's like, but this tells the story of how their relationship was, and she was silent. And it does. I know. But I don't want to see it. I'm going to be honest.
I know. Well, that was the thing. That was what I felt like. Because I was like, it felt... Because, okay, the point where she's... here we go. The point where she's riding him in a chair in the office with all the people around... It's like, it made sense, because it was like, he feels exposed in front of it, and now, like, the wife is like, oh no, I basically see this happening in front of me, in this room with all these men. Mm-hmm. But, like, we lingered a whole lot, and that's where I was
For so long.
Yeah, that was the only moment. I was like, it's like, I understand it as an artist, like, it makes sense, but, like, it was a lot.
Well, I guess I didn't understand, and once again, I'm not a filmmaker, and so I don't think that I have as much knowledge on this. But in the scene after there's, like, spoilers, again, that when they show the affair, like him going to her hotel room or whatever, and them sitting there, like, naked, and for what? Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the parts that I was like, okay, like, I can understand it if we see it maybe in another moment or whatever. I think the first sex scene could have been shown without seeing her fully. I don't know why we needed to do that. Mm-hmm. I think you can allude... But also, these are my strong opinions on just nudity in general, so to be fair, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not shaming Florence Pugh for doing it either.
Yeah.
I think that there are just more intelligent ways to show intimacy or lack of intimacy or vulnerability in those moments in a more beautiful way.
Yeah,
and
well, like,
her
honestly...
chest is not that for me.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I felt like the scene where they're talking to each other, I didn't really think that much about. And the scene in the office I thought about, it was, like, too much, but I understood. But yeah. It's like, it's the graphic sexual content. Look at us sounding, like, super... it's the graphic sexual content for me.
No, like, literally, it's like... But, I mean, also, I didn't do any, like, big research beforehand either to prepare myself, so it was a little bit of a shock for me.
It was like, oh.
It was like, oh, Florence, like, no! But, I mean, like, and her acting was also beautiful and breathtaking. Like I don't think anything about that part of the performance took away from what she was doing. I think she was stunning in every aspect of her performance.
Everyone was good, honestly.
Yeah, I think there were just moments when I thought maybe it would have been more profound to tell it in a different way. But I understand, the world we do be living in.
Yes. But it's also like to get us back on track to the Barbenheimer of it all. Like it does pose an interesting dilemma of like how common that is. And again, I would say that Oppenheimer was geared towards men for the theater, because men, it's a stereotype. And again, my favorite movie is Interstellar, but it is a stereotype that like nerdy white men who like to feel smart like Christopher Nolan movies.
Yes.
And so it's like it is saying something when like that's so common in movies like that, and it doesn't receive backlash and it doesn't receive anything, and it's just it's art. But then the reverse is not true
for Barbie.
And again, Barbie receives all the backlash in the world for
just showing femininity or for showing the playful side of what girlhood was like for people, and exposing patriarchy in those conversations,
and pointing some very pointed jokes at men. But like we're talking about pointed jokes versus like, and this is so much, but like voices versus like you really never see penises in movies. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's
and like
thing.
Male nudity is just not a thing, not in art, not in film, and I'm not saying it should be, lest we get that little soundbite.
Me neither.
But the reality is like there's a double standard right there that's very apparent. No one gets mad at it, so why are we getting mad at jokes at men's expense?
Exactly. I'm not a person who's gonna like watch Oppenheimer and be like, I cannot believe that the only two women in the few women in this movie are either being sexualized or they're being shown as like mentally ill and like. To be fair, this is based on a real person with real people in his life, with real real views about women, and I'm sure he objectified women in some sort of way because of the way that it sounded like his relationships were. He did not value the women in his life, and he did not show them care and respect and honor. So I get that. Yeah. I'm not a person who thinks that at all is like a big deal about Oppenheimer. I know there are some people who like are saying like, there's not many women in this movie, and I can't believe that the women that they do show are either naked or overly emotional. Like, because that's just not the case. It's based on a real person's also life. And
talking about patriarchy, like, I mean, this is, oh gosh, I can't start actually putting actual dates out there because that I don't know. But
the 40s, right? I mean,
World War II,
40s, right?
Like, women were not doing what they're doing.
No,
so it's like. And that's a big thing for me is like, right, realistically, even at, like if there's a time in history where all the women were primarily mothers, like that is a reality of that time period.
Exactly.
But I feel that way in my writing as well. Like I'm scared, honestly, for a lot of my writing that like people are gonna be like, oh, there's not enough strong female characters. And I'm like, because that's not this story. Like, I've written stories from women's perspectives. And so it is interesting. Because I didn't feel like it was sexist. It was naturally sexist because of the topics.
Because of the topic, yes. And so I think you can't say that. But it's so apparent and obvious people's aversion to femininity and comfortability in your femininity when you saw the backlash that Barbie got. It was insane. Mm-hmm. So I think we could transition to Barbie
discomfort in your masculinity as well.
Absolutely. Like, oh my gosh, absolutely. But no, because I went into Barbie. So we watched Oppenheimer. We got McDonald's, and then we rushed over to get into that theater because we were running a little bit late. Because my friends had full-on costume changes for the Barbie movie.
See, we were gonna. Too tired.
I did not. I had work that day. I said I'm a working gal. I'm gonna put on a little fit and I'm gonna put makeup on, and that's what I'm gonna do for this movie.
It was like a little bit. Yeah. It was like echoes of Ken and Barbie.
And I loved that she did that. Juliana, this is a shout out for you. You looked amazing, doll. But I we got into that movie theater, and so we saw the day after they came out, and so I had seen some things on social media just saying that like Barbie made them cry, or Barbie was like more heartfelt, and they realized it wasn't. Oh,
see, that's so funny. Mm-hmm. I got the exact opposite.
Interesting. I'd love to see the difference between our social medias. That's so funny. Okay.
Okay. So sorry, everyone. We had a little bit of technical problemos with microphone because it's our first podcast. So we're back now.
And we're talking about the
lore. Yes.
And how I was hoping that they would just really build that world, because there is so much of a world that is built through a lot of Barbie media. Like there are lots of movies, there are TV shows, there's so much stuff, and so I think it was really cool. I played with Barbies as a child, like I said.
Me too.
Jamming in, I don't know if it got on here, so.
Jamming in Jamaica.
Jammin' in Jamaica is my favorite Barbie movie. It is a My Scene Barbie movie, which is like a weird like 2000s or 90s like thing that they did where they like Barbies were like teenagers and they were like young adults, I think. Actually, I don't know, I think like maybe like 16 to like 20 or something like that, because they had like jobs, but then also in Jammin' in Jamaica they had to ask their parents to go to Jamaica, so like I don't know. But my favorite Barbie was the Rachel Ray Barbie set, which is just very niche to my childhood, because my mom and I would watch cooking shows together, and then they came out with this like Rachel Ray Barbie set that had like cameras and lights and this like little sound stage that you could film your own little cooking shows on.
I would have loved that. I just turned all my toys into sound stages anyways.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I would have ate that right up.
Yeah, so I loved it. But going into the Barbie movie, I was excited to see what world they were building. And it was so funny. And, like, I loved how meta it was. How, like, the narrator was just talking about, like, what you do when you play Barbies. And, like, what, as a child, you don't walk them down to their car. You pick them up from their house and you put them in the car. Yeah. And, like, these relationships and all this stuff. I loved, like, the funny conversation. Yes, I love. What?
Girlfriend, boyfriend.
Girlfriend, boyfriend.
You know, like. I can't stay over tonight because we girlfriend, boyfriend.
Girlfriend, boyfriend.
And it was like, it was like that was kids playing. You know.
Can I come over? We want to play mom and dad, but what do mom and dad do? I don't know. Like, and the idea of like showing the Barbies that weren't as popular but like are still in the world and like things like that, so much fun. But it really
Weird Barbie was real. Sorry,
Weird Barbie was so real. We all had one. Like
literally, Abigail just showed me hers. Her name's Tiffany. The head is like off. It's like the hair is like. I mean, it's quite similar, except the Barbie was like a baby. It wasn't a baby, but it was like baby.
Was it a Skipper Barbie?
No, I don't know what it was, but it was something, and it was Weird Barbie.
That's amazing.
You know,
I love that so much. But no, like they're as a young girl, you just and young child in general. I know some like young boys and stuff like that play with Barbies too.
Yeah,
and
I did.
And yeah, so I think it was
for
so
the
fun.
Story.
Yeah, to see the world and that was the colorful, the music. I loved the artists that they had in it. It felt like in a similar way of like seeing Oppenheimer and being like, oh my gosh, I know that actor from this thing, or I know that actor from this thing. Like, it was so cool to see the representation of different Barbies. And like, I can't lie, when I saw the plus size Barbie who was played by, oh my gosh, I cannot remember her name, and that's terrible. But I watched her in My Fat Diary, and she was absolutely stunning. And I just like love her as an actress as well. I cannot remember her name. It's gonna be so terrible. But just seeing the beautiful representation in this world, and how it's so like encouraging and fun to watch, and all of this.
And it's Barbie. I mean, like,
and it's Barbie.
And we talked about this a little bit on our pre-podcast chat, but like, it also very much is like whether Mattel was doing this just to stay trendy and with the times or not. The reality is like, yeah, Barbie was always very diverse. So it's like, it's like the thing that you know, when everyone's just saying like, oh, it's just the wokest, it's like, well, of course it is. It actually would kind of be inaccurate if it wasn't
exactly
diverse. Like, you
I mean,
know.
when they brought out when they made curvy Barbies, I think I was like in my teens and stuff like that when that happened. But I mean,
Yeah.
like it might have been woke to other people to have body inclusivity in Barbies, but for a lot of little girls, that changed
I
their
know.
like lives.
Yeah.
So I think I loved the fact that Barbie was feminist. It was like pro women. It was anti patriarchy.
It
Yes,
very much was.
but it was not as woke as I think that they could have gone with it.
Which
And I
is so
think it was
interesting, because that's not what anyone
because
else is saying.
I know it's not what anyone else is saying, and I feel like I feel so frustrated. I think there's three types of people. Okay,
Okay.
there are people who saw Barbie, and they go, "Oh my gosh, Barbie spoke to me." Like whether you're a man or a woman or like whatever, you go, "Oh my gosh, Barbie was so impactful." If you're a woman and you experience this, and like I see you, or I sometimes experience this too as a man, and like all of this stuff.
I have one story to share. That's that person. My boss's son and his friends did
Yes.
Oppenheimer, or did Oppenheimer. No, see, now I'm getting it mixed up. Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer.
Gosh, but they did it, and then he came home and he just like grabbed his mom's hands and was like, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I haven't like thought about you going through things like this." And like, and then his friend was there and was also like, "Yeah, like same thing." And I'm like, these were like teenage boys.
Yeah.
And like, and that's why I've gotten so furious with the response to this, because it's like, okay, at the end of the day, like, if it's not you, if you are not the patriarchy, then let it pass you by, okay? We don't need to say, not all men, not all men, not all men. It's like, no, we know.
Yeah.
The problem is the ones that are, you know?
Yes.
And that's what I keep seeing, is that people just saying, like, that doesn't happen, and everything that happened in that movie, I've seen, personally, and in the lives of all of my friends, and my wife, and like, ugh.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there's people like that, and I appreciate people who have empathy in that way, that can just see other people's experiences and be like, well, that's real, regardless of if I've experienced it or not. Like, that means something to somebody else. Then I think that there are like we said, infuriating people who think that this is just woke propaganda to make women feel like they're so infuriated by the idea of a society where men are actually objectified and not women, and like just the juxtaposition that Barbie presented of Barbie Land being what America is, but reversed. And they don't understand
that.
They don't understand nuance whatsoever.
Yes.
And so there's those people, and then there is this weird middle ground, and I don't know who I'm more mad at, honestly. But there's this weird middle ground of people who just watch Barbie and go, "Oh yeah, it was funny. It's cool." And I'm like, "Did you watch the movie?" I'm like, "Did you just watch these dolls, but also these people experience some of these like really hard themes and like have these beautiful emotional moments that I think were still beautiful acting, like in the same way that Oppenheimer, but different."
Yeah.
But like such beautiful storytelling, a good script, like not bad, like, but also really fun. Yes, it's fun, but there's so much more depth to it than I think that some people are receiving from it. And I think that is also can feel like a little bit of the patriarchy and like this idea of like women's things are kind of like childish, fun, quirky, little cute, and there's nothing deep behind them.
Yeah, no,
when
that's
actually,
a good point, actually.
There's so much depth. And so I feel like there's those three types of viewers for this movie. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've been enjoying getting mad. That sounds bad, but getting mad
no,
at
I
people
agree.
who are,
remember,
that are just being stupid.
Like, when we were talking last time, I was, like, rage-watching Ben Shapiro reacting to the Barbie movie for 40 minutes. And is he doing it for views? Yes. Like, of course he is. But the reality is he's still doing it. And so are a bunch of other people. And the reality is also, like, these people... okay, I'm going to go on a spiel for a second here. Talk about movie reviews and stuff. So, filmmaking used to be the thing that I wanted to do with my entire life. So I was, a little film guy, and I still do watch a lot of film critiques and film reviews and all that on YouTube. And so I get a lot of film reviews recommended to me, and I watch a lot. And I think the state of Hollywood right now is abysmal and terrible. And like you're saying, there's nothing original. It's just, I mean, it's atrocious. It's like awful. And so in that vein, because I'm watching videos that are saying that, I would see these certain people, not necessarily Ben Shapiro, but other YouTube channels that were like, that would start talking about a lot of the same things I had problems with. Like when you can tell that the diversity casting is so much solely for money and they're not written well. And it's like, you're not telling black stories, you're telling the white story, and then you're adding in someone for a token, I mean, we all know that happens. So it's like, I would get mad at those things. And these other people, they'd be saying the same things. And I was like, yeah, great. And then they just kept saying it. And I kept getting videos recommended. And it was like, oh, no. Now you're just mad at, like, any person of color playing a major part, or any person of a different size, or someone who looks... And then I watch the videos, and I know what they're going to say before they say it, because they'll say stuff like... I mean, like, oh, there was... I don't even know how I watched this, because I didn't even watch this movie. But I was watching some dirt waffle talking about... the new Indiana Jones movie, and literally they did this little cutaway where they were like, and then here's Marion, who used to look like this, and I was like,
no,
guys, like, and so I know
the series like when 40 years old or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, sorry that she aged. Ugh. And then I know that those people are watching the scene with the plus size dancer and are saying comments about that, about how much of a problem that is. And it's like, and then I have you in my head. Like, when I'm like seeing those, I'm just like, my friend Kayllen wept, and that's who it was for. Back off.
Exactly. Like,
what is the problem there with it being, like I understand, because the thing is, and this is what I thought Barbie did really well, which is, like, I thought, okay, so we know throughout all of Hollywood history, especially, okay, I'm rambling, but I'm trying to get to my point. Love it. It's like, okay, so throughout all of Hollywood history, when women have been objectified, I mean, like, just grossly objectified for all of cinema history, casting couch, all that, you know what I'm saying? Like, ridiculous. And so we know that's a thing that happens, and the movies are always, women are presented a certain way. There's like, whenever people kiss, the man's face is always in the front, not the woman's face. Like, there's all these little things that are so specific that are really to hide women's whatever all over the place. So like, when that has been the history of your medium, your entertainment, when that has been your history, and then a movie comes out that flips that history, I'm sorry, like, you don't really have the right to get upset at it, even though I think that, like, is that, okay, if I had wanted to write a movie that was similar and about Barbie and all that, would I have written it that way? Probably not. Like, because I probably wouldn't have, because, like, as a man, I hate saying that, just like, as a man, and it's because it's one of those phrases that you've heard so many times. But, like, as a man watching it, what am I doing? As a man watching the Barbie movie, it's so good. But, like, I did feel bad because it's like, what there's not is a representation of capable men that are actually capable leaders or capable, like, it was like, every man was played for laughs, even the father, like, he was just kind of played for a couple jokes there. And I had that reaction of like, oh, that does kind of sting, because I feel alienated by most men. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, I've felt that way. I could laugh at all the jokes because I was like, yeah, that's what I felt. And some of them I could laugh at because of me. Like when they talked about the Zack Snyder Justice League and just like rambling, I just started cracking up because I was like, I haven't seen the Snyder cut. Okay, I haven't. But like, I will talk Abigail's ear off about who knows what all the time. And like, part of that's the ADHD, part of that's the Enneagram 4, but like, it's just such a reality to me that I had to laugh. And like, I don't know. And the reality, so as a man watching it, the reality for me was like, yeah, okay, this is hard because there's not a representation for me. But has there been a representation for women in this way for the entire history of film? And that's it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality, is that, like, this movie is already the highest grossing female directed film, I believe, or it's up there or something.
It is. It's the number one.
Is it? Okay.
It is the biggest opening weekend for a film directed by a woman.
Yeah.
Ever.
Which shows, like, and again, it's the Barbie movie. It's a satire. Mm-hmm. It has no right, you know? Yeah. It's like, it really, like, and that shows you how small the market is.
Yes.
If that movie is...
Well, I was looking at, like, the other movies that were made that were in competition, and they were both superhero movies. Mm-hmm. It was Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Yep.
And I thought to myself, those are still movies made for men.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, is so sad, you know?
Too, like...
But the majority of most of those superhero movies are made to be seen by a male audience.
We want to see Gal Gadot in a miniskirt.
Exactly. They want those types of things. And I'm like, those are the number 2 and the number 3 slot? What? You mean to tell me no other female stories about just women have been told? What? Like, and it even at its core, the fact that Barbie is number 1 is sad. You know,
yeah,
like at the end of the day, it being Barbie as number 1 and not a story about a woman who has either changed the world or changed women's lives or changed or a heartfelt, you know, story about what it's like to be a woman just in general. Like the fact that that's not the story that's being told either is so telling when those are the top 3 movies. Barbie.
Well, and have I told you, I have a little shout out to give. I have a little shout out to give to the What's Her Name podcast. Okay. Abigail listens to this all the time while she's working in the farm, like a good farm wife. I can't even do misogyny
that
jokes.
That is ironic. That is ironic.
But she does work in a farm.
You're also a little good farm wife.
We're both little farm spouses. But like, she'll listen to it, and it's fun because we work on separate farms, and then we come together. We pick each other up, and she'll just like regale me with the tale of What's Her Name podcast was talking about, and they go through and they take like very little known women throughout history and they just talk about them. And Abigail was like, I've never been more upset at the film industry, honestly, after hearing these podcasts, because it's just like there are so many legitimate stories that are just dynamic and not marketed towards men or women. Like, you could tell the entire story with a female lead and everyone would enjoy it and know it, and like it's not Barbie, which is very, very overtly feminist, very liberal, like it is those things, but it's like there's so many stories that you could be telling, but it's like, when you have the amount of backlash that you have for something like this, it just goes to show you how it's like, well, that's why, you know. And then what happened? It's like mass gaslighting. Then what you have happen is you have all these men just saying that's not true. That's not how it happens. That's not, and they're all saying, as if like Abigail hasn't had to like repeat. Abigail is my wife, just so everyone knows. Like as if she hasn't had to call the cops multiple times because of a creepy person. I've had to go over to her workplace, not the farm, her former workplace, and like just sit in the coffee shop until after closing because of this weird occult guy who would literally stare at her through the reflection of the window, and then she would go to the bathroom and he would go right after her to the same every time. She went to the bathroom like 6 times just to check out if it had, and every like freaky stuff. And then Barbie comes out of Barbie land and she's like, I feel vaguely
assaulted
threatened
in the first like 10 minutes.
And
which is so real.
Yeah, and all the men are like, that's not how it works. That's not how, and it's like, do you have any women in your life?
No, that's the thing is I had a really good conversation with one of my friends. It was actually right after my birthday party. We're all sitting in the car talking about it was 4 women and 1 man, and he's like 30, and we're just all talking about our experiences as women. And I sat in that car, And I was able to say to him, I'm pretty positive, and I asked all women in that car, I said, I think all of us have experienced some sort of sexual harassment or assault. And they were like, yes. And I said to him, I said, I'm honestly sure that I could tell you that you probably could ask any woman that you know, and the majority of them will have the ability to say that, yes, I've either been sexually harassed or assaulted. And, like, I work at a coffee shop. I've had men come up to the counter. I had a man come up to the counter and take my picture. He started flirting with me. He started calling me pet names that were very inappropriate, asking me to, like, do inappropriate things to his drink, started taking pictures of me. I had to tell him to stop. He tried to make me call him Big Daddy as his name for his drink. So much stuff.
What did you call him?
I didn't. I left. I had someone else give the drink to him because I was so uncomfortable and I had to go cry in the walk-in. You know, classic. But
so unrealistic.
Like,
Hashtag that didn't happen.
No,
you know what
that's
I'm
so not real. You know, like, or the fact that that's happened at other workplaces as before. That's not the first time that I've been, you know, harassed at a workplace. Yeah. That's not the first time that I have had unseemly things said to me and I am not a conventionally attractive woman. So I can't even imagine what it would be like for a person who actually looks like Barbie.
Well,
you know?
Okay,
like,
segue to, this feels bad, but like my wife.
Who is conventionally attractive.
I feel so bad.
No, it's fine.
I mean, like, well, the reality is, like, she has a metabolism that makes her a pencil, and she has hips and long blonde hair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, like, and literally, we walk into the supermarket, and if I'm, like, a couple steps behind, literally every man is just leering, and then they look at me and they look away, and I can tell, like, that's the thing, there's different vibes. Sometimes it's like, you know, your eye is drawn to things regardless, like, you know, people are gonna look at people, but it's like there's this very specific look, and you know it, and I know it, and it's like, I see that all the time, and it's to the point where it's like, do I want my wife walking alone at night? Like, it's like, that's the reality. And so it's to have that be the reality for so many people, and then to walk out of this movie and be like, oh, that was so, like, and same thing with the patriarchy, being like, okay, first of all, I will say, for a woman-oriented movie, this movie probably had the most male screen time that I've seen in a woman-oriented movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, usually, there's, like, two male characters.
Ken had his whole song, you know?
Yeah, like, usually there's the guy that she's supposed to end up with, and then there's, like, the guy that's, you know, I mean, like, think even, like, Little Women or something.
They rarely pass the Bechdel test when it's a woman movie for women.
Yeah.
And, well, I will usually say that most women movies are usually rom-coms, which are about a woman falling in love.
Well, yeah.
So
that's why I'm talking about, that's why I was going to say Little Women, because it's written by a woman, wildly popular, still has, like, I'm trying to think, there's Lori, there's the guy that Joe ends up with at the very end, there's the father who's not in it very much. Like, it's not, like, because it's not the story, it's not the story they're telling. And, like, so it was just interesting also to see, like, everybody get mad because I'm just like, you still have more screen time. Like, you still had character depth. You still, like, at the end, you actually had a moment where it was like, oh, wow, I guess the reason why I was aggressive towards you and wanted to, like, start the patriarchy was because I didn't feel like I had a purpose other than your accessory. And so I needed to find my purpose. Like, okay, it was, like, cheesy, it was whatever. But was that wrong? Was that a wrong thing to put in there?
Well, and let's acknowledge the fact that they still then gave, like, Barbie still gave him the ability to have an arc and still set him free from that idea in Barbie Land. Like, all of Barbie Land.
What are we talking about?
But and all of Barbie Land had an arc because all of Barbie Land acknowledged, hey, these Kens thinking that their only value is in having a Barbie is not true. Yeah. And you need to go find yourself and figure out who Ken is when Ken is by himself. Yeah. And, like, that's not, like, the fact that that's not what they do in women's movies for women, that about women, for women, but not really for women. Like, it's rarely ever that. It's usually some weird, like, I'm going to be for me, I'm a woman just for me, and I'm going to live my woman life. But also, wait, I still got a guy at the end, and I still got married, and I still have this weirdly patriarchal story that is still all about this man. The last scene is always
with a couple kids and just like...
Yes, yes, exactly. Like, usually very weird. So I'm like, the thing is, at the end of the day, they showed this weird world where Ken is not valued, where Ken is objectified, and where Ken has no say. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, they still gave Ken a voice, and they still gave him individuality and authenticity and room to grow. We cannot say the same for women's stories and movies and that in the patriarchy. I mean,
let's think of it like let's think of something that would be an example of the opposite. Like, okay, you know what? Honestly, I have to give them credit. Marvel, they do okay. Like, okay,
they do.
Like,
I think women are still objectified in their costumes and in the sexuality of their actions and like the way that they. I think there's a lot of, because it's made for men, and we can acknowledge that. But I think character building wise, like actual personality and story arcs,
that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I'm saying like because it's superheroes, so you think male, dominated market. It's like, but in reality, it's like, I just lost my train of thought completely. No, I just I saw an image. They do a better job. But regardless, they do stories okay with women, which sounds terrible. Like, you see how it's like sexist it sounds? Be like, they do good stories with women,
which is surprising because I never thought a woman could have a story. But no, like they're So I think, and I also think like, I don't know, the idea that like, which I can't even get into the conversation of America Ferrera's like monologue at the end. One of the most beautiful monologues that I probably have ever seen in film. Genuinely made me weep. And then again, the montage at the end with Barbie is so beautiful. And as of Enneagram 4, I think you and I can both relate to
raw,
the woman.
Unfiltered footage?
That, yes. There. But also... I can't remember what her name is, but whoever created the Barbie, the character of her, Rose something. And she literally just says, like, feel. Like, close your eyes, breathe deep, and feel. And I think, like, I literally have chills. I have goosebumps thinking about just how women are told that we shouldn't feel, that our feelings are too much, that our experiences are minimized all the time. But the thing that made Barbie the most real that she ever was feeling human experience and processing human experience. And I think that that's a superpower that women have, like, and so I think it was really beautiful to like show that and then show her going into the real world.
Yes.
And
everyone was so mad at the end, the end was so funny. It was so funny.
Oh my God. Let me tell you, I screamed when she said she was there for her first gynecology appointment. Listen, this is about to get TMI, but I made a full Instagram group. Like, so on your Instagram stories, you can make like a private story. You watched them, didn't you?
I watched. I need you to know that my wife, we were sitting in the car and she started watching them. This sounds so much worse than it is, audience, just so you're okay. Right. But like, we started watching them and then she was like, I think you need to not be here. And I was like, but it's Kayllen. And she was like,
no, I wouldn't care.
Still.
So I love that. No, but for my fun listeners at home who I can't wait, the people that I know that are about to listen to this is so crazy.
The Barbie movie did this to us.
But I had my first experience with an OBGYN in the last couple months. And I am here in Pennsylvania by myself. My mom is not here. My best friend, who, like, those are the two people that probably would have gone with me and sat in the office with me. Like, it's a very vulnerable and scary moment. But I had made a private, like, group story to share my experience with the girlies at work and my friends who I knew would love to go on the journey with me. But that's how big of a deal it is when you go to your first gynecology appointment as like a woman. It is so crazy, especially if you've never anything, like, it's just craziness. And you have I don't know. Like, I hear about these appointments from either women who are much older than me or who are married, who have been pregnant. Like, they're very different experiences than what I was going for. But no, at the very end, I related so much that when Barbie walked out and was like, "I'm here for my first gynecology appointment," I'm just like, "Girl, same!" Like, that was me. And I felt so seen and so heard and, like, known. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that people can be mad about that, but that is such an experience in coming into adulthood as a woman.
Yeah.
Is going to your first gynecology appointment. It's one of the most vulnerable and, like, crazy things, and most of the time you have to do it by yourself. And, like, I think it was beautiful. So people who get mad about that can fight me.
What it was Ben Shapiro being like, yeah, and so then it ends with, like, her growing a vagina. Like, that's what he said. That's how you interpreted a funny joke at the end of the movie to relate to women going to the gynecologist. You chose to be like, yeah, so then Barbie grew a vagina at the end. It's like,
oh my gosh.
Wow.
And nobody was thinking about that. Nobody. No woman in the theater thought to themselves, oh my gosh, Barbie grew a vagina? Nobody was thinking that. They were thinking, oh my gosh, this really weird niche experience that only we've had.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I have no idea.
Everybody, yes.
The closest I've gotten to it is those first few videos I saw of you talking about it.
And oh my gosh, and the experience of, like, everybody being in the car, like, cheering her on. When I was at work the day before the day of my appointment, that was all of the girls in the cafe. I left them and I was like, guys, wish me luck, pray for me. And all of them were like, you can do this, you're gonna be great. Like, it's this, like, this beautiful support from other women who know what it's like, or either are empathizing. Like, that's how it was in the car when they were, like, cheering Barbie on to go to this appointment. And I think it was also really cool. I don't know if I'm the only one that thought this, but when I saw her get out of the car, I thought that it was about to be a moment where she was, like, going to work or something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I thought it was a really cool moment to be like, nah, man, she's not just, like, going to work in as a cog in the machine. A clog in the machine. But
well, she probably has clogs now.
Yeah, she does. But instead, it's this really just very niche, nuanced moment, and I really thought it was so beautiful.
And that's what it was. Like, it felt like, oh, Barbie's getting her first job, which is so easy. That's that's what I expected the movie to be about. It was like that, like her not fitting in the real world. But it was like, because of that, it was such a specific joke, and it's so funny that we're talking so much about it, because it's like the reason why we have to talk so much about it. We don't have to do anything, whatever. But, like, the reason why we want to is because it's like people are just crazy about this. Like, okay, there was this, like, film page that I follow, and this woman posted a really big, long post about it, and, like, in support, like, talking about it as a woman filmmaker. She was like, this is, and, like, I was scanning comments, like, all the comments were women, and then there's one comment by a man, and he was just like, feminist trash, like, not all men, some men don't do that, and it was just like, my guy, like, and so that's where I get so, just, like, furious, because then, again, the narrative that, because a lot of the things we're talking about, a lot of the things that are not women-specific, I also feel, like, obviously,
absolutely,
like, men are taught not to feel in completely different ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, women are not allowed to feel anger. Men, all we can feel is anger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's like there's these juxtapositions where it's like everyone's trying to control the emotions that we are allowed to have, but they are different. And so it's like, to say, like, that, like, women's anger is such an interesting thing for me, like, how throughout history, like, you look back to, like, Medea in Greece by Euripides. And, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. That is the tagline of that play that's written thousands of years ago. And I'm like, meanwhile, I'm like watching Oppenheimer, like, hell hath some other fury too. Like, it's like, it's like, and that's the reality, is like, no, because men are allowed to show their anger. If women show their anger, it's not, like, and that's a real thing. It's like throughout so much history, it's like, it's not allowed. Just like it's not allowed for me to be empathetic and for me to be, you know, to talk about my emotions or to process my past and to refrain from certain toxic things that most men enjoy. Like, it's like those things somehow translate to me being a beta male, even though I feel like a leader a lot of the time. And what's interesting and this is why, again, in the movie, it felt a little like, was the fact that, like, in my reality, in my experience, like, I've struggled a lot with, like, the fact that my life, I mean, I grew up around strong women. Like, the men were always passive in my life, the women were always not. And I wasn't passive, so I always ended up being around the women because I was like, they're the ones that are moving. They're doing things, you know? And, like, of course that gave me, I think, insight that a lot of men lack, you know? But the reality is, like, it gave me front row seats to see everything that they made the men do in the Barbie movie happen, you know? And it's like, and so the reality is, like, why are we taking so much energy and so much time to be like, this does not happen, not all men, when it's like, guys, like, I have watched this happen firsthand.
Yeah.
I have seen abusive relationships. I have seen, and again, not to get super dark, but, like, when a person like Brock Turner is allowed to get 3 months in prison, I am sorry, you don't get to say this isn't a problem. Yeah. You don't get to shut that. Like, when I see something like that, what I don't think is, well, I'm not a rapist, so don't come at me. What I don't think is that. What I think is, I need to support women. I start to think I need to support the women in my life that have either experienced something like this. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't even understand, as a man, I don't even understand the mentality that's happening right now of, like, well, this is attacking men, and it's like, no, please attack the bad men. Please.
Yes.
Like, other cultures
call them out.
Have stoned rapists.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
Oh God.
Like, I'm just saying, we get 3 months here in America, you know, for blatant sexual assault. Other places would stone them. Like, you want to talk about progressive, you want to say this is not an issue of women's autonomy and rights. Like, there it is right there.
And that woke femininity and woke feminism is the thing that we should be afraid of when it's not that. Yeah.
Very strange.
I think to encapsulate this whole thing is, we saw two films who they pulled out a sort of either empathy from the viewer or a apathy.
Rage and disgust.
Or rage and disgust and apathy from the viewer.
Yeah.
And I think we saw two very different stories told from about two very different experiences and people and points of view. But at the end of the day, it's about, do you have empathy? Do you have empathy to understand and see the different experiences throughout the world and, like,
just humanity,
what's going on, humanity, or are you, and how we've seen it on social media, or are you going to choose blatant apathy towards the experience of other people? And I feel like that's the coolest thing about these two movies.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's so well put, because it really is that, like, and it doesn't. Oh. I just think it's so funny that I could, like, literally talk for 5 more hours about this.
No, I know.
I have been ranting. Oh, we will. Don't worry. We'll wind it down here. But, like, it's hard because it's like there literally is so much. Because it's like, I've been just ranting to my wife every time I see her. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Because I see new reactions, but not only do I see new reactions, I, like, just think about new things. And it's just like, and then, you know, one of, like, my boss was talking about some experiences she had as a whammon,
as Mikey Hudson would say.
As a whammon. Just, like, getting rejected from, like, a golf club or something. You know, like, all these niche experiences. And it's like, at the end of the day, yes, there's a lot of overlap between men and women, and, like, we all are human. We all process, but, like, can we, like you just said, like, can we empathize with each other? Given, okay, like, even if someone's making a little fun of you, talking about how you like to talk about The Godfather all the time, like, even if someone's making, or if someone helped to murder thousands and millions of people, like, even on those extremes, can we empathize? can we understand that we're humans and that, like, wow, like, and I think, yeah. So I'm glad look at us both coming to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
That's kind of, because we didn't plan this.
No, we didn't, guys, I promise. And I think this is also very us at the end, though, where we're talking about empathy and complexities of people and authenticity and nuance of personality and experience. I think that's very us. But I think it's so true. Should we transition into our final segment of the day?
Oh, almost. I have one more, because I never said this, it didn't fit in the conversation. But one more thing I appreciated about the Barbie movie. I can't believe we're here. Every time I say that sentence.
I love it.
Also, just for all of our male listeners who are already mad at me and coming to kill me.
Our 3 male listeners.
Yeah. I did get an I Am Knuff t-shirt. And
yes, he did.
My wife doesn't know. Don't tell her. I need more cut-off tees for the farm because it gets hot out here. It was 104 the other day. So I need it. And I'm fine. Anyways, that's not what I was going to say. That was a brief little...
I am Knuff and I'm fine.
Yes. But the other thing I really appreciated was, like, we all know that, like, I thought Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie were the perfect casting choices because they are the it people right now. You know? And what I loved that they were able to do was, like, deconstruct the it person. Because it's like, I mean, you know, like, once you get over a certain age, if you are a different body type, you get cast as the mother. You don't get cast as the lead. And so, like, why? Well, kind of because of Barbie. Like, because of that standard that we put on our culture. It's like, that's so much what it is.
Yeah.
But then in the movie, I loved the moment where, like, Barbie... I can't believe it. Every time I say it, I just can't believe it.
Yes.
But, like, I love the point where Barbie is, like, breaking down and is like, I don't feel pretty anymore. You know? And it was like, even the it person, of course, is comparing herself to 20 other it people and up-and-coming it people. And she's starting to see that she's maybe on the tail end. You know, it's like, that's such a real thing and such a flip of the script for, like, the it person in a movie. Because it's like, no, even there, guys, it's never what you think it is. You are constantly self-conscious. There is so much nuance. So we don't need to keep telling these stories about Barbie and Ken, Barbie and Ken, Barbie and Ken, copy and paste, because it just isn't. It isn't the reality. It's never going to be the reality. No. It's not even the reality for them. Yeah. You know. So that was just another thing.
It's so good.
Really
it's so we could literally talk about this forever.
Yes.
Like, because it's just that's how nuanced and good it is.
Yes.
Like.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to get a little situated for this next moment because I think...
Yes.
Do you want to explain as I'm getting situated?
Yes, I will explain. So I don't even remember how this happened, but I think Abigail...
We'll explain more about how this began in our episode where we talk about our very first episode.
So it began somewhere. I think we were all hanging out, and I think you and me started doing this because it was funny. And then we were like, and we had been talking about the podcast that day, and then we were just like, oh, we need to do it. We need to end every podcast with this. So we decided we were going to end every podcast with an improvised ASMR related to whatever we were talking about it. I will remove the pop filter, so you'll get to hear every juicy noise of my mouth and Kaylen's mouth.
And I already have.
That's a terrible sentence.
And I'm putting Nathan right here up against... so that way he can hear me in our FaceTime. But viewers, if you don't like ASMR, this is the time to click off.
Yes.
But if you do like ASMR and you want to join us on this journey, go ahead. Thank you so much. If you've listened up to this point, wow, guys, you did that. But we have many episodes that we have ideas for. We're going to keep doing this. If this episode is 3,000 years long, I hope you put it in 1.25 speed.
Yes.
But listeners, we hope you have a great day, a great night, a great life. All right. Hi, my name's Barbie.
And I hope that you enjoyed our little episode today about Barbenheimer. I hope that you really enjoyed that we talked about the patriarchy. And I hope that you enjoyed that we're talking about many more things to come. And that bombs are bad, but Barbie is fun. And we're just gonna have a lot of fun.
Hello, Barbie. My name is Robert Oppenheimer. Here, let me set my stuff down. I have all these glass bottles. I just wanted to say, I one time built a town that had no real bearing on the world at the Trinity test, where I made the nuclear bomb. And I just was coming here for notes because I recognized that yours had a certain flair to it that I could just never really come to. So I was wondering if you could sign my book, American Prometheus. Here, I'll give you the pen. I'll show you the page that I want you to sign.
Okay. Alright. I'm gonna sign that now. Alright. I just signed it. I just signed that. Oppenheimer, you made some weird choices in your life. You were kind of sus with women. So,
I am a god.